Hi everyone. I just wanted to put together a quick video about your subject definition analysis papers. Just to kind of reiterate some of the things I have in the assignment description, maybe sort of reframe them for those of you that maybe learn a little bit differently. Yeah, just to kind of provide some extra input and feedback that will be beneficial for you as you are writing your papers. So we're just going to kind of go through the process of writing the paper, and yeah, I'll share a few tips with you. Okay, so yeah, the first step is to choose a subject. So, and for your first subject definition analysis paper, it'll be weeks 1 to 7, which I have listed here. For your second subject definition analysis paper, it will be weeks 8 to 15. But yeah, just one of the main subjects for this record. They each have their own module on the course Canvas site. So yeah, you can choose whichever one you want. You know, you might want to focus on one that is particularly appealing to you or interests you, just because it'll make writing this paper a little more enjoyable for you. But yeah, that's the first step. Okay. And then next, you are going to define the subject that you choose. So you are going to take whatever topic you choose. So in this example, I have appraisal, and then you are going to choose 2 characteristics that are aspects of appraisal. So I have 4 characteristics here. Again, you only need to do 2, but I just kind of wanted to throw out some different options or examples. So you could say appraisal involves value judgments by archivists. You could say appraisal considers the value of a record's context. You could say that appraisal considers the value of a record's content. Switch that around. And you could say that, or you could say that appraisal influences other archival administrative processes. So yeah, 2 of those can be your characteristics. And there are many more characteristics to appraisal. I just wanted to kind of put up some examples. And then that's what you're going to use for your definition. So you're going to put this into a nice like 1 to 2 paragraph form, and that will be the definition for your paper. So I actually have an example here of a definition submitted by a previous student. So I'll go ahead and bring that up. And you can actually find this on the course Canvas site in the assignment description. Okay, so this is the definition that the student submitted. So they talk generally about archival reference services, which is fine. You don't necessarily need to do that, but maybe like a 2-sentence sort of overview, just kind of put things in context, is a good addition. And then they're very clear about the 2 characteristics of archival reference that they will be discussing, and that's a very important thing to do. So this essay explores 2 characteristics of archival reference: extensive, multifaceted knowledge required to support reference activities. So that's one of them, as well as the role of reference services in demonstrating the value of archives to the public. So those are the 2 characteristics that this paper is going to cover. Very straightforward, very clear about which characteristics are going to be discussed, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. You know, I want you to be as clear as possible about what your paper is going to be analyzing. Students in the past try and get into these long, like, discussions about what their subject is, and that's not what I want. I just want 2 quick characteristics. This shouldn't be more than, 2 paragraphs. So if you have like a whole page written and you are still working on your definition, then you need to revise it significantly. And then they wrap things up by talking about which additional subject they're going to connect one of their characteristics to. So in doing so, it aims to disentangle the relationship between reference and outreach to demonstrate how both functions serve the larger goal of advocacy. So just saying I'm going to connect reference services or researcher services with outreach. So yeah, very clear, very straightforward, and pretty much exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, so yeah, your definition is so important because it's going to set the framework for what the rest of your paper is going to look like. And, papers that have good definitions, that have a clear sense of what they are going to be about, end up being papers that have a lot of clear arguments and clear connections. And those are the ones that end up receiving good grades. So really focus on your definition. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to use sources to support your definition. You can think of your definition as a thesis statement. So you're saying, this is what I think appraisal is, and then you are going to use sources to support that argument. So you're required to use 2 readings from week 4 if you choose appraisal to support your definition, and you are required to use 1 source from outside of this course to support your definition. So in this instance, your outside source would be related to appraisal as well. And when you're looking at your sources, just think, okay, these are the characteristics that I have in mind. How well do these readings support whatever characteristic I'm going to work with? I do want to emphasize that you have to address both of the characteristics in your paper. Try and do so fairly equally. Sometimes I get papers where a student will discuss one of their characteristics for like 2 or 3 pages, and then the second characteristic for like a paragraph or 2. Please try and be as even as possible. And one thing that is really important here is to have clear connections. So as clear connections between your sources and your characteristics as possible. One thing that I mentioned in the assignment description is looking at the lectures, as I usually touch on different characteristics that are parts of each subject for the course. Another thing that I focus on, or that I would encourage you to focus on, are the highlighted portions of each article, because oftentimes they are good connections to different aspects of whatever topic the article is about. So again, just try and think of, okay, I'm reading this article from week 4. I see that there are different highlighted portions. How do they relate to the characteristic that I'm thinking about? Or what characteristic of appraisal do they relate to? And then maybe that can help you decide what your definition is going to be. So there are a few different ways that you can use the highlighted portions from the readings to either find support for characteristics that you already have, or think about characteristics that you might want to address in your paper. So yeah, again, essentially here you're just supporting the argument that you are making in your definition section about what your subject is, or different aspects of your subject. Okay, so yeah, again, for each characteristic, you want to have cited support to support the contention that you're making. So, and cited support is something important that I'll talk about later when I discuss ways that students typically lose points in this assignment. So really try and have as much of a connection between everything that you include in your subject definition analysis section and a characteristic. If you have anything in your subject definition analysis section that isn't directly supporting one of the characteristics that you have in your definition, then it shouldn't be there, because it's just coloring up your argument and you're taking up space that you would otherwise be using to support your definition. So try and use every inch that you can and make sure that everything you have in your subject definition analysis section to support your characteristics as clearly and thoroughly as possible. Okay, and then the final section or stage of this paper is the subject connection requirement. So for this section, you're going to select another course subject between weeks 1 and 7 or 8 and 15 for the second subject definition analysis paper. You're going to use one required reading from the subject that you choose and connect one of your characteristics with it. So I have an example here. You might say, okay, I'm going to work with preservation. And I'm going to say that in addition to appraisal, preservation is another archival process that influences other archival administrative processes. So I guess you might want to word it a little bit better than I did, but essentially that's what you can say. And then that essentially is your thesis. You're saying this is also an aspect of preservation. Okay, so then you have to tell me how or why. And again, use specific examples from the required reading that you're using to support your thesis. So this is kind of like another thesis too. You're saying this is also a part of preservation. So you're kind of making a statement of fact, and then you need to use one of the sources from week 7 or whichever week you choose to work with to support your thesis. So, you know, pretty straightforward writing 101, right? You make a contention and then you use sources to support your contention. Okay, so I'll wrap things up by talking about some common ways that students lose points on this paper. So I've been having students complete these subject definition analysis papers for probably 2 or 3 years now. So, you know, I've graded hundreds of these things. Well, not hundreds, but yeah, probably between maybe 1 and 200. And there are a lot of common ways that I see students losing points. The first one is incorrect footnote format. I have an example of what your footnotes look like or should look like in the subject definition analysis assignment. So if you go down to citations and you click on the notes and bibliography style, well, I'll just bring it over here. If you click on the notes and bibliography style link here, it will take you to an example of what your footnotes should look like. So let's scroll down to journal articles, which is probably what most of you are going to be using. So this is what your first footnote should look like. So it should be first name, last name, so on and so forth. What students often do is, instead of giving me this, they give me something that looks like a bibliography entry, only it has the correct page number on it. So just make sure that you get your footnotes correct. Another way that students can really start to lose points is by not citing their sources thoroughly. Every time that you make a statement of fact in a paper, whether you're using a direct quote from a paper or if you're just paraphrasing someone's arguments in a source, you need to cite that source. A lot of times students will think, well, I'm not doing a direct quote, so I don't need to cite anything, but you do. If you're paraphrasing someone else's thoughts, then you need to give that person credit for being the source of your knowledge. And if you don't cite things thoroughly, then that's when it starts becoming unclear to me, you know, where you're getting your information. If you're getting your information from one of your sources or if you're just kind of plucking it out of the sky. And then that's where I start to take up points for making meaningful connections between your sources and your paper. Because if I don't know that it comes from a particular source, then I can't say, yes, that person has used the source thoroughly and meaningfully. So please make sure that you're citing things thoroughly. When in doubt, cite it. That's always a good philosophy to have. Another thing that students start to lose points on is quality of writing. So typos, grammar errors, things like that, easily avoidable. Just have someone else read your paper, a friend, family member, beloved pet. Just have someone go over your paper and see if they can find anything that can be fixed. And also here on campus, we have a writing center, which is very helpful. If you make an appointment with the writing center, they will be very happy to go through your paper and help you fix any errors that might be located in it as well. So yeah, oftentimes when you write something and maybe you've read it a few times, it can be easy to kind of gloss over parts that may have some room for improvement, but you're just kind of in the weeds and you just kind of stop noticing things. It happens to me all the time, whether it's an email or whatever I'm doing. So just have someone look over your paper, and that will really help you out. And last but not least, just to reiterate things, a poor definition. Make sure that you have a strong and clear and concise definition, and it will really help you throughout the rest of your paper. I can't emphasize it enough. And what I'm more than willing to do is if you want to send me some early thoughts about the definition for your paper and even the sources that you plan on using in your paper, I'm happy to take a look at it and say, yes, that looks good, or no, here's maybe a little bit of room for improvement that you might think about doing. So yeah, I really want you to do well in this paper, and having a good definition is a vital part of that taking place. So I'm more than happy to review your definitions for you if you want another source of feedback. Okay, so that's all I have for this sort of quick little instructional video. Obviously, if you have any questions about this assignment or any other assignment in this course, feel free to let me know, but I just kind of wanted to record this in case it helps any of you kind of understand the assignment a little better and hopefully get the grade that you want to get and succeed in this class, and also learn as well. That's important too. Okay, thanks. Have a good one.